So there have been numerous headlines mentioning Xbox making plans on possibly bringing their exclusive games to the PlayStation 5 in the future. Honestly, that's not so much of a surprise, especially considering the fact that even though the revenue from Microsoft has increased since their acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Modern Warfare 3 was a game that flopped, and I think they lost a lot of money on that. And obviously, I think it's become clear that a lot of people aren't going to be too happy with Call of Duty being exclusive to Xbox consoles because people don't want to be forced to pick and choose what game system they should purchase based off of the games that come out for it, because you look at the teens decade and even the 2000s decade, you had a lot of third party games that was released on multiple game systems so people can pick and choose what they want to buy, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people at one point was afraid of the fact that with Sony purchasing Bungie and with Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, that those two entities were going to end up dividing the landscape of gaming for the most part, and there wouldn't be any like real third party games or anything like that. But luckily it doesn't seem like things are necessarily going in that direction, and Microsoft is open to bringing their exclusive games to the PlayStation 5. And I think this might be an attempt for them to double down the fact that they are not trying to create a monopoly like what FTC had accused them of. And obviously, that's something that they want to prove is true, because look at the 10-year partnership deal that they made with Nintendo, because they want to bring more Call of Duty games to Nintendo. And for the most part, you look back at the teens decade, we hardly got any high profile games or high profile Call of Duty games from Nintendo. And the reason for that is because Nintendo is more for children. Um B, first party games pretty much overshadow any third party game that'll appear on Nintendo. And C, for the most part, like Call of Duty is for more of a mature audience, and not only that, like the visuals and the graphics and all that stuff is a lot better on PlayStation and Xbox console. Nintendo's consoles are not as powerful as their rivals. But I heard the Switch 2 is supposed to be as powerful as the PlayStation 5. That's just hearsay. I'm gonna wait until the Switch 2 is unveiled and just see what we're going to get in the future. But as far as Sony and Xbox no longer being rivals is concerned, um honestly, a lot of people probably thought that the console war thing was kind of just getting old, and it seemed like no one really cared because it felt like the console wars was a bigger deal back in the 90s and the 2000s, especially the 2000s when Microsoft had entered with the original Xbox console in '01. And the last time Xbox was truly competitive with PlayStation was the 2000s when the Xbox 360 came out. I think to this day, like the Xbox 360 is like the best selling console that Microsoft had ever put out, and I think it was so much so where it actually prevented the PlayStation 3 from selling as much as the PlayStation 4 did. Now, you look at the teens decade, the PlayStation 4 pretty much outshined and overshadowed. I wouldn't say overshadowed, but outshined the Xbox One in terms of commercial success because of their first party games for the most part. And if you look at the Xbox 360, a lot of the best selling video games on the Xbox 360 for the most part were they were third party games. And I mean, there was a couple of first party games that did really well, like Connect Adventures and Halo 3, and I think it was like Minecraft or whatever. But like for the most part, like the Halo series, I'm not going to say it's dead, but it's not as popular as it once was. And Halo 3 was arguably like one of the best installments in the entire series, along with Halo 2. Um, like in the teens decade, I feel like after the early teens, the Halo series kind of went off a cliff in terms of popularity because we had Halo Reach in 2010 and we had like Halo 4 in 2012. And I mean, Halo 5 Guardians was okay to a lot of people, but didn't feel the same because um I don't know, I guess different publishers or whatever, but different developers. But like for the most part, um I mean, they might as well just, go about, bringing, exclusive games to the PlayStation 5. And hopefully that's the same thing that Sony might end up doing with PS5 games to the Xbox Series X, but it seems unlikely because for the most part, Sony's been their own island. They've been able to make plenty of money and survive off of their first party games like Marvel Spider-Man and God of War and all those other franchises. And and let's be honest. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are bummed by the fact that like there are certain games that are exclusive to, I guess, Microsoft that that wouldn't be appearing on any other game system, which is why Microsoft is doing this. I think they're doing this to make well, A, to make a profit, B, to make everybody else despise them less and to get the heat off of them. But yeah, I don't think Sony and Xbox or Sony and Microsoft is necessarily at war with each other in terms of competition and who's putting out the best game system and all that. And there's also been talk that Microsoft has been thinking about moving towards cloud gaming in the future, and a lot of people felt like the Xbox Series X might end up being the final console that they put out, but I believe there was an article that was recently published by Forbes that said that Phil Spencer had confirmed that the company won't stop making Xbox consoles, and and I'm not exactly sure whether or not that's a promise he can necessarily keep, or if that's something that's going to eventually change over time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the world is necessarily ready to solely rely on cloud gaming. People are just so used to video game consoles and so accustomed to owning CDs, and video games and all that stuff to a point where I don't know, it would just feel different if anything else was done in terms of like how we play video games. But it seems like a very interesting development, and I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens between Sony and Xbox in the future.